This is Join Us in France, episode 574. 574. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the podcast where we take a conversational journey through the beauty, culture, and flavors of France. Today, I bring you a conversation with Amber Haggerty about being vegetarian in Paris. Discover where to find delicious plant based meals, from classic French dishes to hidden international gems. Amber shares insider tips, favorite restaurants, and how to avoid tourist traps, proving Paris is a paradise for vegetarians. Perfect for food lovers and anyone planning a trip to the City of Light. This podcast is fueled by chocolatine, coffee, and the generosity of listeners like you. You book itinerary consults, take my voice map tours, hop in my electric car for a day trip around the Southwest, or chip in on Patreon, and I am so grateful for that. Want to keep me going and skip the ads? There's a link for that in the show notes. And you'll find everything else at joinusinfrance.com/boutique. For the magazine part of the podcast, after my chat with Amber today, I'll discuss two things that I got from listeners. One email and one Facebook message. I respond to emails I get, usually, but sometimes I get so many that some get lost, and must admit, some people send me awfully long emails. And I can't respond in kind with something that'll take me an hour to write, but I do try, okay? I do try. I don't try as much on Facebook. I'm not there very much, but I do go occasionally. If you're a patron, message me within Patreon. I always respond as soon as possible to Patreon messages. Or you can take your chances and email me, Annie@joinusinfrance.com. Bonjour, Amber Haggerty, and welcome to Join Us in France.
Bonjour, Annie. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's wonderful to have you. And you are the owner of two blogs. One is called The Vegetarian in Paris, and another one is called Amber Everywhere. We are going to be talking about what it's like to be a vegetarian in Paris. You live in Paris, right?
I do. I live in the 7th.
So, how long have you been living in the 7th?
So I've been here for almost 2 years, and I visited Paris many times before I moved. So it was one of my favorite places to visit for a long time. And I've also been a vegetarian my whole adult life. So I was a little bit nervous my first time coming to Paris. I just wasn't sure if there would be a lot of things for me to eat. And the city is just one of my favorite places to eat. And I think it gets that reputation, and I understand why. But I just wanted to share a little bit with your listeners about my experience just traveling and eating in the city with a dietary restriction.
Very good. All right, let's discuss the challenges a little bit. They are getting easier. It's very obvious to me that probably 20 years ago it wasn't quite so easy. But by now, most places have vegetarian options, some even have vegan options.
Yes. So I would say that a lot of the challenges, so there, just to be totally clear, there are definitely restaurants that don't have any vegetarian options, just for anybody listening that exists. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the menu before you go. But in my experience, having a vegetarian option, you're absolutely right. A lot of chefs and a lot of restaurants have created vegetarian options. I'm very grateful for that because a lot of them are very tasty. And I think for me, it's just about weeding through and trying, what are the dishes? I particularly love things that aren't heavily modified to be vegetarian. So dishes like, we'll get into it, but like galette can easily be made vegetarian. It's also gluten free for anybody listening, but that's like a savory crepe. My favorite things are places where there just aren't a ton of modifications and it's not, like a vegan hot dog. It's something that's a little bit more of the place. But still, another couple things to just be aware of when you're ordering and when you're going through Paris as a vegetarian or a vegan is that two quick things. First, in the US especially, we tend to have the little sprout emoji or like little V. The V probably always still means vegetarian, but they'll use the little sprout emoji on menus to just mean that something has a vegetable in it. And it's not necessarily vegetarian. So if you don't speak French and you're glancing, trust me, it still throws me off. Sometimes you'll see something that's like an eggplant and beef curry, and it has a little like sprout emoji next to it, which in the US would mean vegetarian or vegan, but that is just not it doesn't work that way, I don't know.
Wow.
Just be careful of little ways that
Misunderstandings. Probably whoever put together that menu didn't even realize that that means vegan.
probably not. Yeah.
Like, it's the healthy choice or whatever, maybe, or I don't know. Interesting.
It's little, but when you're scanning and you don't speak the language, it can definitely throw you off a little.
Yes.
And then another one is that, in my experience, a lot of restaurants, especially French restaurants, will not list every single ingredient that they're using when they're on the menu, either because it's a popular dish and they'll assume that, if they don't mention something, you'll know it's there. And another one is we have this in the US too, but things like traditional onion soup is going to be made with a beef broth. So there's lots of things where even the waiters might not know that something's not vegetarian because it doesn't list in the ingredients beef broth, but we just know that that's how the soup is traditionally made. So just being careful and always asking, and if they don't seem sure, maybe double checking. But a lot of places that work with, especially people who see a lot of visitors, they're going to be a little bit more aware of that restriction.
Yeah, I think the places that probably cater more towards more affluent visitors and, they probably will have thought it through a little bit. It's not like I mean, like your local kebab will have vegetarian, the falafel is usually vegetarian, but that's about it. But there are a lot of restaurants that will really think it through and have nice places. So, yeah, a long time ago, I was in France with two guys who were Indian. And so they were vegan in their everyday life. But in France, they found that a bit difficult because they were staying for 3 months for a project. But most days they ended up eating fries because they liked fries. They liked bread and they liked fries. And they were really missing the richness of the vegetables that they could get at home and the spices and all of that. But to me, that's just low quality vegetarian. We can do better than this, right?
Absolutely. And no shade to bread, but you should definitely have some bread while you're in Paris, but it should not be your whole meal. There are so many options that are traditional. Also, Paris, I'll talk about this a little bit, but there's also just incredible international food too. It's a big, vibrant city. So you have lots of options and you don't have to live off of frites if you don't want to.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. So there are some traditional French dishes that can be made vegetarian. The one you cited is the galette. So that's the buckwheat crepe from Brittany, usually, where you can put anything you want. You can fill it up with bacon if you want, but you don't have to. So, what are your favorite galettes to ask for in Paris?
Well, some restaurants will have like a special my absolute favorite is when they have a special that's on the regular menu for everyone that happens to be vegetarian. So anytime that happens, it's like a little bit exciting for me. But aside from that, because you never know, that's just going to be seasonal and depending on what they have. But aside from that, I usually will go for mushroom and fromage galette. And I really like to put that with salad. And that to me just feels like a filling meal. And almost every creperie I've ever been to it was willing to make that. Even if it's not on the menu, it's pretty simple and they almost always have mushrooms and cheese.
Yeah.
And you can add an egg if you want some protein.
Yeah. So if you are just walking around Paris and you're vegetarian, if you're vegan, it's a bit more difficult. But if you're vegetarian, you don't have to plan anything. You can just go to the nearest crêperie. They are everywhere, right? I mean, it's just not difficult to find a crêperie in Paris.
Exactly. And my quick little rule would be that I would just look for ones that have a line, look for ones that are busy. If you're wandering around, if they're busy, if they're moving a lot of things, it's probably okay. I have favorites, but I would personally be a little wary of the ones that you walk up and you're the only customer.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. Like if I want to eat early, for instance, sometimes it's just too early. If you want to eat at noon, right on the dot noon, maybe places are just starting to fill up. Other dishes that are like a piperade is peppers and tomatoes, and it can be made with chicken, but it can be made without chicken. And onion soup can be very good with just like vegetable broth. It's delicious, but you do have to ask.
Yeah. There's another, I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting the word for it, but the Alsatian, almost like a pizza.
Flammekuchen.
Yes. There's a place that has a great one that's vegetarian. I mean, they have lots of vegetarian options, but that is oof, it's so good. It's not too far from Republique.
From where? République.
Republique, yeah.
République. Very good. Very good. So, where do you go buy your food in Paris? I assume you cook for yourself since you live there. Do you have favorite places to go buy food?
Yes. So I would say most of the grocery stores in Paris have pretty high quality ingredients. But when I really want something exciting or interesting, I love to go to Le Bon Marché, which is they have an épicerie, they have a big grocery store. I've done Christmas shopping there before. It's this enormous shop. And I had a friend who visited not too long ago, and I'd taken her to several stores around Paris, and we walked in there, and she said, "You're gonna need to go home. I'm good. I'm gonna be here for several hours." And she was. You may have heard of it if you're kind of following a lot of Paris content online. That's where they have a big, giant fridge full of the different butters. So if you wanna try the truffle butter or they have, like, a buckwheat butter or just salted, all these different butters. You can try those, and they'll vacuum pack them for you to take away. They also have a really nice cheese shop. And I would say the most exciting thing about them is that they have everything kind of all in one place, which is really, really exciting. My favorite spot to just grab some cheese. So if you're either in the area or you have a while, there's the Algerian market, and they have a fromagerie that's my favorite. And they have an aged Comté, which it's aged for 30 months if you go, and it is one of the most successful gifts I've ever given from Paris. Just almost everybody I've ever given it to has loved it. They'll vacuum pack it for you, and it's actually quite a bit cheaper than going to Bon Marché.
Yeah, Le Bon Marché is not cheap. But despite the name, it is not cheap. So the you called it the Algerian market? Where is that?
Fromagerie Adouin, which is on Place Aligre. I'm so sorry.
Oh, c'est au marché d'Aligre?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Ah, it's in the marché d'Aligre. Okay, okay, okay. And it's called what again?
Fromagerie Adouin.
Adouin.
Yeah. Hardouin.
Okay, all right. So they have a 30-month aged Comté. A lot of fromagerie will have something like it, but can they vacuum pack it for you to take home? I'm not sure. And cheese like Comté does not, I mean, if you put it in your checked luggage, it's going to be cold because it's always cold in the area where they keep the luggage. And even if it's warm for a few hours in transit, it's not going to ruin your Comté, okay? Some younger, fresher cheeses, you wouldn't want to do that. Well, I wouldn't do that with a camembert, but but with a Comté, you can. Oh, yeah. The Marché d'Aligre in general is very popular and very famous. So, yeah. But I mean, if you're living on the opposite side of the city, just go to your local cheesemonger. At the grocery store, you'll only find 12 months or 6-month age Comté. So you would have to go to a cheese shop to get more than that. After 24 months, it gets really, really interesting. And 30 months, now that's special. That's a special one.
It has the little crystals. I'm obsessed with it. Just to be totally transparent, I did not make it out there on every trip to Paris before I moved. And sometimes when I'm leaving, I don't make it's a little bit far from where I am, but if you're really wanting to bring some home, it would be a special thing to bring.
Yes, 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 yes. That's great. What other gifts do you take home? Like, do you take any like spices or anything like that?
Actually, my favorite thing to bring people is salt. So you can get, especially from anything that's the sort of sea salt, it's really special. And even at the grocery stores, just regular grocery stores, you can find pretty nice little salt packages. And they're just, I think, quite different from what anyone would see in the US.
That's true.
Yeah, anyone who's like a foodie is probably going to enjoy getting some salt, and it's really easy to travel with, and it's not that expensive.
Yes.
I've also brought back, and this is a little weather dependent, but I would say butter is wonderful. I love bringing back butter. I also love butter. It's a really special thing to bring, and it's also, I think, popular in the moment. But it's just French butter, I think, is pretty special, especially some of the you can get some flavored ones, you can get plain. I think they're just really lovely. Another one that is also a little bit temperature dependent, is I've actually brought galettes back before. You can get them in the grocery store, just vacuum sealed basically. And I put them in the freezer and then put them in my luggage, and they've done fine.
Oh, good. I've never tried that. That's good to know.
They are pretty hard, so keep them flat. But
Yes, yes, yes. Tell me about some of your favorite restaurants, the ones where you like to go, restaurants or grocery stores, as a matter of fact. What are the ones that you think are worth the trip?
absolutely. So I'll start with we've already talked about galette, but I just want to mention the name of 3 places that I love, and I love them all. They're just a little bit different in terms of what they offer and the menu and the experience. The first is Breizh, which is a big pretty they're a decent sized chain in Paris.
So that's Breitz.
Breizh.
ZH. Yes. Which spells Breton in Breton. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, yes, yes.
And they have a little that my favorite is in Le Marais, and they have just it's kind of cute. You kind of go in and it's a little bit tucked back from the street. It's really nice, but they're all nice. And it's usually somewhere I would take guests when they visit me. Another just kind of crêperie is La Crêperie de Jocelyn, and that's on Rue de Montparnasse. Yeah, Rue de Montparnasse, which is a big street in the 14th, which is close to Montparnasse, a big train station. And so there's a lot of crêperies there. I've actually had great crepes at several of them, but I would say it seems to me that the Jocelyn is probably one of the most famous, and so that one's really nice.
It's famous. It gets written up a lot. I've eaten there. It's very, very busy. Honestly, I wouldn't wait for an hour there. If they don't have a table reasonably quickly, I'm not going to stay because they are good. But again, there are a lot of good cups in Paris. You don't need that one specifically. So, and that one, and Jocelyn is very busy. Yeah.
Yes, and you can just literally cross the street, and there's a great one right across the street. So it's a if you're wanting to just try it and not like you're saying, like, not terribly committed to that particular spot, there's just a whole street of them, and they're wonderful. And the last one is a petit grec, which is just a little, Greek French fusion restaurant that has pretty affordable just takeaway crepes, and they're really wonderful, especially for vegetarian. They have, like, a feta salad that's really lovely, and they're almost all under €10 unless you kind of add on to them. So they're pretty great for just grabbing something while you're walking around, and they're pretty affordable, and that was a restaurant that was introduced to me by a friend when he was a student in Paris and didn't have a lot of money. So he took us there and he said, "This is the perfect place." And we went there every single time we visited with him and just always would get them and wander around. So it's just a really great option for something quick.
That's in the fifth, au Petit Grec. Yeah. Very nice.
And then 2 more upscale versions, just 2 places that I really love. The first is Pristine, and Pristine is I think they're almost entirely vegetarian. They might have a couple of fish dishes, but most of the restaurant is vegetarian, and they have this mushroom tart that is unmissable. I think most of the menu changes seasonally, but the mushroom tart they should always have, and that tart is probably one of the best dishes I've had in Paris. It's delicious. So definitely worth it if you're looking for more of a splurge meal when you're visiting Paris. And the other is Le Florimond, which is in the 7th and not too far from the Eiffel Tower. So if you're staying in this area, which is where a lot of the hotels are, it would be close to you. And it's just a little bistro. And I've been going there for a really long time. It's nice, and they either will have a vegetarian menu or they'll make one for you, and it's a good option for, like, a sit down, maybe 50 to €60 a person, nicer meal, as I know a lot of people wanna do, like, one nice meal. So I would say either of those would be a good choice if you're visiting Paris.
Okay, cool, cool. Pristine or Le Florimond. Very good.
And can I keep going?
Yes, of course.
The other little category that I have is wine bars, and even if you don't like wine, stay tuned because both of these are great places to try cheese. We were talking about cheese earlier and where to buy cheese, but it can be really hard, especially if you aren't terribly familiar with different French cheeses, to know what you like and what to order and even what to ask for. And sometimes they'll let you try things, but I love taking guests to there's a small chain called Le 1745, in English. They're very cool, even if you're not vegetarian, because they have create your own cheese boards and create your own charcuterie boards. So it's sort of you have a whole menu of cheeses and meats that you can pick from. You can do completely vegetarian or I guess no cheese or both. So it's great also if you're traveling with someone who eats meat and you can choose which cheeses to try and they'll give you I don't remember how many grams, but it's a pretty reasonable but not huge serving. So it's nice if you wanna just try a lot of things. You're like, "I've heard of this. I've heard of Tom. I wanna try it." And so they'll have those and you can try them, and I think the prices are rather fair, and they also have pretty affordable wines. So a glass of wine is, yeah, like €6.
That's nice if you want to do your own kind of wine and cheese tasting, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to have the full experience. I want somebody to talk to me for half an hour about why this cheese goes with this wine." Well, I would rather not have people talk to me about for half an hour about this stuff because I know this stuff. I just want to be able to say, "I like this cheese, and this wine." There you go.
And I would say it's also great for groups. So if you're visiting with a group and you have some people with different dietary stuff, you could easily do gluten-free. You can kind of play with that.
Nice, nice.
I wouldn't say for vegans though, sorry. I don't know if that would be a good fit, but for anybody else, there you could probably find something.
Yes, yes, yes. So that's called le 1745,
Yes.
not le 1745.
Le 17,5,
Ah, okay, okay.
but it's written out, so it's 17.45.
Right, right. So it's just numbers.
Yes.
But do they say it in French or in English?
When they've spoken to me, they've said it in English, but I'm sure that they
Ah,
I'm sure that they
it'd be strange to say c'est le 1745 au lieu de c'est le 1745. Although, if you ask me, putting two numbers as the name of your place is like, why? But okay.
well, they open every day at 5:45.
Oh, c'est l'heure de l'apéro.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. Okay, okay, okay. That makes more sense. Very good.
It's very, very, very cute, and they have a couple of them, so definitely one of my favorite places to go. And then the last of the kind of wine bars is Septième La Cave, and thank you for your patience with my French pronunciations.
Septième la cave.
Septième La Cave.
So the seventh cave.
Mhm. It's not in the 7th. I don't know I don't know the significance of the name.
Not in the seventh.
No, it's pretty close to Bastille. It's a really small place, so go early. It's maybe 10 seats, maybe 15. So very little. It's very intimate. It's really cute. They have this delicious chèvre, so like a fresh goat's cheese that they cover in parsley. It's delicious, and they have a few other vegetarian options. I would say this is think more like a snack. It's probably not a place you're gonna wanna go for dinner because they don't have big plates, but if you just wanna try some really interesting wines, I would say do 1745 for the cheeses primarily. If you're more interested in the wine, Septième Le Cave is fabulous, and they also just have some great little bites. So they're both really wonderful spots.
Nice.
And the last, just to do a couple of sweets, I love, love, love madeleines, and there's a place called Le Comptoir de la Madeleine, which is my absolute favorite, and they have fresh madeleines, and it's not too far from Gare. Technically, it's in the ninth. It's very small, it's just you walk up, it's a little storefront, and they serve you directly on the sidewalk, and they have usually 5 or 6 flavors. My favorite, favorite flavor is the salted caramel, but they have several others, and they have a couple that are rotating, and you can get a little box. Yeah, they're delicious.
I love that. I love Madeleine. And you know what? Madeleine are easy to make. I haven't made any for a long time, but they're pretty easy to make. You just need the right pan. But they're really not that hard to make. I'd love one with like lemon and lemon zest in it.
And they're so fresh. Oh, with the, like, crispy they get the crispy edges. They're so good.
Yes, 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 yes. See, so that's if you have a friend who's a foodie that you want to give a nice gift to, buy Madeleine pans and make Madeleine together because everybody makes the macaron and they are fine. There's nothing wrong with macaron, but Madeleine are even more French. Like, la Madeleine de Proust, for heaven's sakes. This is what you give kids. Every French person has had Madeleine made at home, and now you can buy them anywhere as well. And I didn't know about the Comptoir de la Madeleine, but that sounds like my kind of place.
It's so cute. And they ugh, I just love it. And if you go it's really unassuming, but I would get a box and just bring them back, and they're usually still warm. They're, like, my favorite little treat. I would say they're worth going out of the way for. They're also not terribly far if you're on a walk and you do Montmartre and Sacré-Cœur, if you're going down into the city, it's on your way, so that's a good day to fold it into.
All right. Le Comptoir de la Madeleine. While you're talking, I will look it up exactly where it is because that is not one that I don't remember. I mean, if it's small enough, I might have walked past and not noticed it because, sometimes you Comptoir de la Madeleine, Paris. Where is it exactly? Rue Victor Massé. Oh, it says it's closed temporarily.
I think they're closed for August.
Uh-huh. Okay, so I'm looking oh, so if you're rolling down from Pigalle, down the hill from Pigalle, and you go Rue Rochaud, and then you take a left, you'll get there. Interesting, interesting. Oh, it has a cute little front. Oh, but people, they do serve you at the window. You don't even go in really. Do they have any seating? No.
Nope, no seating. They do have some lemonade and some coffee, I think, so you can get just a little snack, but yeah, it's a very small operation, like, probably the size of a living room. It's pretty little, but it's so good. Every time I've ever been, they've had fresh, like, still warm madeleines.
So it's a euro 90 a piece. And if you get a box of 24, it's 36 euros. That's not bad. And they'll sell you a cafe or a bottle of water. Oh, come on, you need chocolate milk. What sort of children's place are you? No chocolate milk. Anyway, you can probably get a chocolate milk just down the road. It's okay.
We can make it work.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work. Wonderful.
And then just one other little sweet shop. My favorite chocolatier is Jean-Paul Revent, and I hope I'm saying that right. But it's a little chocolatier. They have one in the 7th. I don't know if they have any others, but in the 7th, so not far from the Eiffel Tower, if you're around this area, there's just this fabulous little chocolate shop. And that's another place that I love to get gifts. They have a bark, so like a piece of chocolate with hazelnuts in it, either dark or milk chocolate, and I have given that to people a couple of times, and they've told me it's the best chocolate they've ever had in their life. So it's a nice little treat. It's not a particularly cheap place. I think it's probably 9 euros for the bark, but it's if you wanna give someone, like, a gift, that's where I like to.
Well made chocolate is not cheap. Honestly, it's not a cheapo thing. So the name of the place is Jean Paul Evin or Evin. I'm not sure if he says A or E, but there's a lot of. Okay, again, there's a ton of chocolate shops in Paris. Just find one you like. Go into any of them, take a 20 euro bill, and part with it. They will give you something very nice in return.
That is excellent advice.
Just say, I have 20 euros. Please give me something delicious.
I think they would appreciate the assignment.
Yeah, they would do that in a heartbeat.
I love that. And I have one other I'm jumping this is a seafood place, but they have vegetarian options. So, again, I would go so the place is Le Bon Comptoir de la Mer, and they have a couple others. They have one that's at the market. So, basically, it's like maybe you can translate better, like a cellar of the sea, a store of the sea.
Yeah, an avant comptoir is kind of a low key sort of restaurant where they will sell you things that are locally made. It gives the idea of very local and very low key. It's not a fancy place typically.
I would use that to describe this. And this place, just having been there purely eating vegetarian, they've had usually one dish. And so I'll get to how I would find it in a second, but they usually have one dish that's just vegetarian. The last time I went, it was a peach and green bean salad. It was delicious. It was so, so good. And they have a pretty incredible butter that they import. I don't know exactly where they get it, but I've asked and they won't sell it to you.
From Brittany, somewhere. Yeah.
And they also have lots of seafood, so if you're with people who want to eat oysters or something like that, it's a great place to go. I wouldn't necessarily think of it as a full dinner, but if you want a lighter bite and some great wine, that's a great place to go, and it's not too far from the Jardin du Luxembourg.
Very nice.
Yeah, and also, if you eat fish, I know some vegetarians do eat fish, that would be a wonderful place to go to, and you would, of course, have more options.
Yes, yes. Well, that's great. That's great. You have more in your list. There's one called Habesha.
Yes. So this is I have out as just a little grouping of international foods, and this is just one small sampling of the fabulous international food in Paris. But Habesha is an Ethiopian restaurant in the 15th. It is you blink and you miss it. It's tiny again, and I don't even remember how I found it, but it's one of my favorite places in the world for Ethiopian food, and they have lots and lots of vegetarian options. They'll make it spicy for you if you ask. And you can sit, they have Western style tables on one side of the room, and they have kind of the round side of kind of tables on the other side. The staff is so, so sweet, and they're open lunch and dinner most days. So they're just a great little spot. I would say off the beaten track, definitely just on a kind of residential seeming road, but they're really, really, really tasty.
Oh, nice. And what arrondissement is this?
It's in the 15th.
15th. Oh, wow.
And that place, if you've never had Ethiopian food, it's like one piece of bread called an injera, which is can usually be made gluten-free, but call them ahead if you're gluten-free because sometimes they will cut it with a little bit of wheat flour. So I wouldn't assume, but it can be usually made gluten-free. But then it's got mix of salad and lentils and different cooked vegetables. So it's pretty healthy and just really tasty. And I know sometimes I've visited Paris after having been in Italy and then having been somewhere else and just, really craving a lot of kind of filling veggies, and this would be a great spot for that if you're, maybe a week into your trip and just wanting something vegetable-y.
Yes, yes. Some good vegetables. Wonderful. Habesha in the 15th. Hmm. Very good. Then another one you list here, Zia. Is that also international?
Yes, that is a New Mexican restaurant, so American, but specifically New Mexican. And wanted to include that one. They're mostly brunch and lunch, but they're not far from the Eiffel Tower, and that is a little bit of a desert in terms of good food.
True.
If you're visiting the Eiffel Tower in the morning, Zia is a great place to get brunch if you want, American food.
Where is it? Is it towards the Trocadero or?
It's basically just a few steps from the École Militaire metro,
Okay, okay, okay. So in the other direction. Okay. Very nice.
and they have like American style breakfast burritos. They also have Dutch babies, which are these kind of big pancakes with veggies, and I think you can get bacon if you want bacon. Or they have yogurt and granola. It's an area without a ton of options, so I wanted to include one there. I'm pretty sure everything on the menu can be vegetarian, so it's really vegetarian friendly. And they usually will also speak English with you if that's something that's important, because the owner is American.
Very good, very good. Then you have one in the 10th arrondissement, Plan de Witch and Glace. Qu'est-ce que c'est ça?
That one is vegan, actually, and so it's the only place that I included that's completely vegan, and it is I just call it Plan D. It's right next to the Canal Saint-Martin, which is such a fun area to walk around if you're visiting Paris. It's a little bit wouldn't say it's completely off the track, but it's a little bit further out of the way. It's a little bit more local feeling. And this little vegan sandwich place, they have sandwiches and bowls, and I kind of love their concept. They usually have two colors. And so they'll have sandwiches that are those colors. So one could be green and one could be yellow. And so they'll have for the yellow one, like a turmeric, cauliflower with some sort of veggie slaw sandwich. And then the green one could be, celery and arugula or something like that. So they have these vegan sandwiches and they are so tasty and they don't, to me, taste vegan, but the whole place is completely vegan.
Wonderful.
They're pretty affordable and you can get them and then sit by the canal. They do have a little bit of seating, but not a ton. So that's a great option for just grabbing a lunch and sitting outside. It's definitely going to be on the more affordable side.
Fantastic. Plan D. Very nice. Cozy in the 6th arrondissement. Or multiple locations, you say. So Cozy, is that Italian?
I think it is Italian, but the reason I wanted to include them is I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I've talked to tons and tons of people who are on their trips, and especially when you're vegetarian, your options can be a lot of cheese and bread. And I just wanted to include an option that's going to be really filling salad. So that's, I think, what they do best. They'll have salads and also kind of focaccia based sandwiches. They're, again, pretty affordable. They have a lot of options, but you can usually get a leaf-based salad with a protein and cheese and nuts, and it's just really filling. So if you're at that point in your trip and you're like, "I really want just a big, big salad," not the small salads that come with almost everything, that's a great place to go.
That's it, huh?
I don't know if you've been a vegetarian on a trip, but that is just something I usually find myself wanting around, like, day 5 to 7.
Right. It is I mean, there are places in France that make wonderful salads, but not everywhere. Sometimes the salads are pretty basic. It just depends on where you are. So that's very good to know about the scosi in the six, and there might be other. So it's COSI.
I think they also have one. I think they only have 2. I think the other one's in Le Marais. They're pretty small, but they're just for that kind of specific purpose, I think they're perfect.
Right. Dumbo. I want to hear about Dumbo. In the 10th arrondissement or multiple locations, you say. Okay.
Yeah, they have a couple. There's also one in Le Marais. So, yeah, the Dumbo is my favorite burger place, and it's smash burgers, which I know are popular everywhere. They have my favorite kind of menu, which is a menu that has about 3 things on it. And they have veggie burgers and regular burgers and french fries and sometimes chicken nuggets. That's the whole menu. So they do veggie burgers really, really, really well. So if you're kind of missing home or if you just wanna see the French take on it, I think they're really wonderful. They have a kind of interesting lineup where you can see everybody cooking, and it's really busy. There's usually a line. Not every location has a line, but it's just a great place for a veggie burger. I feel sometimes when you're a vegetarian and traveling, you don't always want, like, a big, thick Beyond Burger or a mushroom burger or something, so this is going to be a kind of interesting take. I've never had anything like it anywhere else, and they make their own sauces, and they're just really nice. It's not French food for sure, but it's I think it has a great veggie option.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, last one we're going to mention, Holly Belly. What is that?
It's the last of the American restaurants that I'm mentioning. This is more like a diner, and they have just, I think, delicious, delicious breakfast. They also are the kind of place you wanna go a little bit early, but they have my favorite thing is just eggs, and then you can get a salad, and they have usually some cooked veggies. They have chia bowls, granola bowls. They are the kind of place I think they could accommodate most any dietary allergy. They're usually pretty nice about it, and it's just a great if you want kind of a full vegetarian breakfast. I know the French breakfast is also usually very vegetarian friendly, but if you're wanting something that has a little bit more protein, again, just I think being vegetarian, you can sometimes get a little bit fatigued with, just not having as many protein options as people who eat meat. So this is just a place where you can get a lot of protein, and the breakfast I think is really fabulous. And little spins on it. It's not exactly like anything you would get in the US, but it is definitely kind of modeled off of that. So it has a kind of similar aesthetic. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It's interesting. We're going to be running out of time soon, but you say that a common mistake that people make is that it's in France, all the food is going to be great, but that's not the case, you say. Please explain.
A lot of times I'll talk to people and they'll say, I went to Paris and I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me. And I'll ask them, what didn't you like? Can you be a little bit more specific? And a lot of times they'll say, I was just really underwhelmed by the food. And I think it can be a universal experience. And I know a lot of people listening to this podcast have probably been to France a few times and know that that is not true. But if you don't do a little bit of research, if you don't kind of know how to find great food in Paris, it just can be a place with a lot of tourist traps and places that just really aren't very good. And it's just not the case that because it's in France, it's going to be tasty. There are definitely places like anything, right next to the Louvre or something like that. It's just probably not going to be the best food that you'll have in Paris. And what I like to tell people is that it's usually a good idea to think of your trip to Paris in 2 parts. You'll have the things you wanna see and the things you wanna eat, and they're usually not very close to each other. So that's why we're very grateful to have the metro and for Paris to be really easy to get around, but it's not like you have to be hyper, hyper selective with every single restaurant. Definitely, you can find something great in a lot of places, but just do a little bit of research, use some clues, listen for people speaking French, look for lines, look for things smelling fresh. I always check reviews and just make sure people aren't saying that they're getting sick or something like that. Also, I'll often find some lists and just look through and go off of somebody's list and just see if there's some restaurants that I really like.
Right. And you mentioned, this is interesting, you're not a fan of leeks, deviled eggs, camembert, raclette, and the bouillon restaurants. That's unusual. Most people like the bouillon restaurants, but it's true that if you're a vegetarian, it's not that good of a place, is it?
Yeah, it's fine. I could imagine there being lots of people who like it, and also my preferences might not be your preferences, but for me, the vegetarian
I like leeks. Leeks are my friends.
they're, I'm sure,
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
I just, I would say the bouillon restaurants are, to me, the vegetarian options are a little bit limited. It's a nice place if you want to try a lot of things. So if you have a lot of French dishes that you're interested in trying, but you just aren't, the menu is quite a bit edited down about the meat.
Yeah, for vegetarian and vegan, I don't even want to think about it. Like, they might not have anything for vegans. The Happy Cow app, does it list vegetarian restaurants or only vegan?
I've never used that. I actually don't know.
Oh, okay. Happy Cow, I know you find vegan restaurants, lots of them. It's very popular in Paris. People use it a lot, but I don't know if they also do vegetarian or if that's, yeah, okay. Interesting. Any last words of advice that people should think about when they're ordering vegetarian food in France?
My advice would be to try a mix of things. So try some traditional French food. And I love, again, just to reiterate, like I love dishes that are easily made vegetarian and that French people would eat. And they might not think of them as vegetarian. For me, that's like the gold standard is something that's delicious and just happens to not contain meat. So for that, galettes are great. You can also get wonderful pastries. Lots of, you were mentioning soups that are easily made without meats. All of that food is gonna be really wonderful to try while you're in Paris, and just being vegetarian, it's okay also to, I think, to try some of Paris's international food because it's a wonderful international food scene. I didn't even touch on some of the Japanese restaurants. There's a whole street of Japanese restaurants called Rue Saint-Anne.
Right, right, right. That's by the Palais Royal. Bunch of Asian restaurants by the Palais Royal.
And those are amazing, and most of them have veggie ramen or veggie noodle soups or that sort of thing. So there's so many things that you can try that aren't necessarily something you could get at home, but also might be international. So just I would say if you're visiting Paris, you have a few days and you're vegetarian, I would try just across the spectrum just to get a sense of what the food scene in the city really is like for people living here, because most people I know are eating a mix of international food and French food when they go out to eat.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm trying to find the Palais Royal, this restaurant that I liked. Let's see. Juji Ya. Juji dash Ya. It's on 46 Rue Sainte Anne. You can choose what you want to put in your bento box.
Ooh.
This is a caterer slash restaurant. It's not a sit down kind of place, but there's always a long line of people out the door at lunchtime because there's a lot of people who work in the area. A friend of my daughter's who works at the Ministry of Culture, she says, "Oh, that's where I like to go eat lunch." So, so I tried it, and she's right.
I'm gonna have to try that. That sounds delicious. Also, I didn't even mention there's so many wonderful Vietnamese restaurants, so there's just a lot of really wonderful, wonderful food in the city.
Yes. Strictly French food, your mileage may vary. Crêperie for sure. They will work for lots and lots of people. But there are a few dishes I'll have to think some more about. In my own cookbook, Join Us at the Table, I have a section that's classic French foods that can be made vegetarian. But I don't know where I've put my cookbook. It's probably in the kitchen because I use it all the time. But in the blog post, I'll put a list of classic French foods that are typically vegetarian. And we have quite a few, actually.
Yeah. And there's just, if anything, I hope this conversation leaves you feeling like if you're a vegetarian, you can go to Paris and you can eat really, really, really well.
Yeah. With a little preparation, you will eat very well.
Agreed.
Thank you so much, Amber. And again, your blog is Vegetarian in Paris or Amber Everywhere. That sounds ominous. You're everywhere.
But I'm right here, right now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Amber. And good luck to you in all your eating in Paris.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me on. It was so nice to meet you.
Merci. Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Again, I want to thank my patrons for giving back and supporting the show. Patrons get several exclusive rewards for doing that. You can see them at patreon.com/join us, Patreon, join us, no spaces or dashes. I don't have any new patrons to thank this week because I recorded this early, but I want to thank my current patrons. Some of them have been supporting this podcast for several years, and they make all the difference. I've made a lot of progress when it comes to making more time for patrons. I publish at least one extra each week, sometimes more. Typically, these rewards have to do with news events and short videos of places I visit where I want to bring my patrons along. I'll tell you about EV charging in France in just a minute on this podcast, but I'll also do a video for patrons about that. Would you join them too? You can do it for as little as $3 a month, but if you can afford it, I would love to have you pledge more so you have access to more of the rewards. Go to patreon.com/join us, and to support Elise, go to patreon.com/EliseArt, ELYSART. I often get emails from listeners who want to say thank you for helping them prepare for their very first visit to Europe. I don't know how many people do that every year, but I assume lots of people from North America get their passport and come to Europe. It's got to be in the thousands, but I don't have the numbers. So here are some tips for those people that you might want to share with people you know who are coming for the first time. There's small but important differences between Europe and North America that catch a lot of first-time visitors by surprise. And these will work for France, England, or Germany. Little things that can throw you off. So here's a few things. Number one, no top sheets in hotels. When you check into a hotel, you'll notice that the bed look like most European hotels give you a bottom sheet and a duvet. No top sheet. That's totally normal. And the problem is, if you find duvets too warm, you might want to ask for a top sheet, and sometimes they don't have one. Or bring your own lightweight travel top sheet. That's what I do. I have a top sheet everywhere I go because it's terribly uncomfortable for me to sleep without anything on top of me or with a duvet on top of me. Number two, there are often no toiletries in budget hotels. If you've booked a small or a budget hotel, do not count on finding soap, shampoo, or lotion in the bathroom. Some even skip hand soap altogether. That's more rare, but yes. So pack a few travel-sized items so you're not hunting for a pharmacy right after you arrive. Number three, bring your own washcloths. This is one of those details that Americans always notice. French and German hotels never include washcloths. Even mid-range hotels won't have them. I always pack one from home. It takes very little space and makes a big difference. Number four, hotel rooms are very small. I mean, like really, really small. If you're used to American hotel rooms, get ready for a shock. Hotel rooms in Europe are often tiny, especially in large cities. Sometimes you can't even walk all the way around the bed, which I don't like because if I share the bed with my husband, we both like to be able to get up. And the bathrooms are very small as well. Showers are small. Space in general is tighter. So it's just how it is. The more you pay for a hotel, the more you will get. And usually when you book on Booking, it will tell you the size in square meters of the room. And to give you an idea, 12 square meters is small. 20 to 25 square meters is big. Number five, how to turn on the lights. You'd be surprised how many people think their hotel room doesn't work. The lights don't work. In many French hotels, you need to insert your key card into a slot near the door before anything electrical turns on. And in England, you usually have to flip a switch on the plug itself. That's how they keep energy use down. It's not broken, it's efficient. Number six, ventilation is old school. So Europeans tend to open windows instead of using fans or AC for airflow. If your room feels stuffy, crack open the window. You might not have a ventilation fan at all, which I don't like, but that's how it is. More and more they have it, but in older rooms, no, you don't. Number seven, no carpet in most hotel rooms. Carpet is pretty rare in hotels in Europe. You'll find tile, wood, or linoleum instead. because Europeans think that carpets trap dust and germs. I like to pack little slippers or tiny socks or something. Hotel floors can be chilly in winter. Number 8 is security checks everywhere. You'll go through small security screenings at most major attractions, museums, sometimes churches, big libraries, even shopping centers. It's fast, but it means you'll want to travel light. Leave the giant backpack in your hotel. You probably don't need to have a gallon of water with you either. There are places where you can get drinking water in lots of places in Europe. Number 9, power converters and adapters. This one trips up a lot of travelers. You'll need to know the difference between a converter and an adapter. Converters change voltage. North America uses 110 volts. Europe uses 230 volts. But most modern electronics, your phones, your tablets, your laptops, can handle both. Check the fine print on your charger, the very, very fine print. I need a magnifying glass to see this. If it says 110 to 240 volts, you're fine. If it says only 110, you'll need a converter. Adapters are just to change the shape of the plug. And yes, every country has its own. French plugs are not the same as British plugs. And in Spain, between Spain and Italy, it differs slightly. Although usually if you have the British and the French, you're good to go. Number 10, Europeans travel light, and so should you. Because hotel rooms are smaller and storage is limited, try not to bring your whole closet. You'll thank yourself, and especially when you're squeezing onto trains and, navigating cobblestones and stuff. Number 12, always start with the pleasantries. In France and most of Europe, you don't just walk up to launch into a question. You start every interaction with a simple bonjour or bonsoir if it's later in the day, but don't worry about that too much, nobody cares. When you leave, say merci, au revoir. It's not optional, it's basic respect. Even if you don't speak French, this is one little word that opens every door. Smile, make eye contact, and be patient. Rushing or sounding demanding will come across as rude, even if you don't mean it that way. Europeans value civility over efficiency when it comes to personal interactions. And number 12, stay calm when something goes wrong. If you run into a problem, your reservation is missing, your meal isn't right, something broke, whatever, stay polite and measured. In North America, you grew up with a customer is always right mindset. But that attitude does not translate well in France or in most of Europe. Raising your voice or demanding to speak to the manager will backfire every single time. Instead, take a gentler approach. You could say something like this: perhaps this happened by mistake, but I'd really appreciate your help to fix it. That phrasing works wonders. It shows respect and gives the other person a chance to help you. And that's what they'll respond to. And don't be fooled. Even if the person speaking English seems hesitant, they can totally read your tone and your body language. A little humility and warmth go much further here than righteous outrage. And if you want to hear the full version on this topic, check out episode 213 of the Join Us in France Travel Podcast, Your First Time in Europe. One more thing about driving EV. This was a Facebook question that I answered on Facebook, but I think all of you need to know this stuff as well. This person wrote, "Hi, I'm looking for help making a decision about renting an electric car, Peugeot 5008. Apparently, some of these are hybrid, but the one we'd rent is all electric." Yeah, hybrids. Don't get a hybrid. That's just city cars. In any event, if you've driven one before, Annie has talked about how much more prevalent charging stations are in France and in the US, and we're tempted to try one. Is there an app that helps find public charging stations in France? How do you know how long charging stations will take to charge a vehicle? I'm guessing some are faster than others. Oh, yes. So let me tell you a little bit. This is what you should know before you try it. Driving an EV in France can be fantastic, but it's not for everyone. If you already drive an electric car at home, you will probably feel right at ease here. You already understand how charging works, how to plan stops, what kind of cable or charger you need for different situations. If you've never driven an EV before, France may not be the easiest place to learn. Doable, yes, but be ready for surprises. Why? Well, language and time constraints mostly. But if you're comfortable speaking French and you can take your time, why not? So let's go step by step. Understanding the basics, AC versus DC charging. In France, as everywhere, there are two main kinds of charging: alternative current, AC, and direct current, DC. AC charging is slower. That's what you use overnight or if you're parked for several hours, perhaps while you visit a village or a museum or something like that. DC charging is the fast kind you'll find along highways. That's what you use for quick top ups during long drives. Perhaps not just a top up, but that's what you find on the freeways. Now, there's something a lot of visitors don't realize, and that's that in France, for alternative current charging, AC charging, you use your own cable. When you rent an EV, make sure they give you that cable before you drive off. It's called a T2 cable. Open the trunk, check the little bag, and look at the cord inside. It's not necessarily a little bag, it can be a big bag. Those things are big. If it's missing, ask for it. You will need it to plug into most AC chargers. It's also a good idea to ask for a granny charger. That's the little cable that lets you plug the car into a regular household outlet, the kind that you might have if you're sleeping overnight at an Airbnb. That's slow and it will take all night to get you a meaningful charge, but it's better than nothing if you're staying somewhere without a dedicated charger. I wouldn't say that you have to have the granny charger. I have one and I rarely take it when I go out, even on the road, because I'm just going to plug into a DC charger or an AC charger along the way. And I don't count on these granny chargers very much. I don't need them. And also, you never know. You might plug in somewhere at an Airbnb and blow up their circuits because it's not made for that. You don't know what the electrical situation is at the Airbnb where you're staying. If you're a Tesla driver, good news. The experience in France is almost identical to what you're used to. Tesla's supercharger network covers the country wonderfully, and you can navigate, charge, and pay just like you do at home. Tesla chargers, most of them in France, are also open to non-Tesla EVs. So even if you're not driving a Tesla, you could choose the Tesla superchargers. You need to use them through their app. And I'm not sure what car rental agencies will rent you a Tesla. You need to inquire before you book. Highway charging, that's easy but very varied. So every service station on French toll roads, we call them aires d'autoroute, has EV chargers now, a bank of them usually. You'll never be stranded on the freeway. The tricky part is that each charging station will have chargers from different brands. Ionity, Total Energy, Engie, Fastned, Allego. There's many more. Almost never Tesla, however, on the freeways. Tesla chargers are usually off the freeway, sometimes not very far off the freeway, but they are off the freeway. And all of these brands work slightly differently. By law, every public charger is supposed to accept credit card payments, but in reality, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes the terminal is down on that particular charger or for the whole station, or the payment screen is confusing, or it simply doesn't read foreign cards. I don't have a foreign car I can test with. So, there's uncertainties. Sometimes they have one payment machine for the entire charging station. You'll need to look around and understand the situation on a case-by-case basis. That's why experienced European EV drivers always carry an RFID card linked to a charging network like ChargeMap or Electroverse. You just tap the card, the charge starts instantly, well, within a minute, usually. And the payment goes through your account later. It's really simple and reliable. If you're coming from abroad, order one of those RFID cards before your trip. I have both ChargeMap and Electroverse, and between the two, you're usually good to go. You can also pay through an app dedicated to that specific brand of charger that you're using, but that takes a lot more time. You need to download the app in the parking lot, create the account, enter in credit card details. It's not fun when you just want to go pee and have a coffee and hit the road. As I get older, my need to go to the bathroom has been increasing, notably. Alternative current EV chargers on city streets, so, AC chargers, the ones where you bring your own cable, on city streets or in villages, they never used to have a credit card payment terminal. A few do now, it's changing, but very slowly. So again, make sure you have a couple of RFID cards like ChargeMap or Electroverse before you arrive in France. And those apps will also help you find chargers around you. That was my next point. There are dozens of apps that can help you find chargers. ChargeMap and Electroverse are very good. But I mean, Ionity has a map. They all have a map. They show you what's near you, which ones are available, what kind of connector and power level they offer. You can drill into all sorts of details. If you're on a French toll road, don't worry. There will be chargers at regular intervals, usually between 40 and 60 kilometers. Outside of highways, many French grocery stores, especially big ones like Leclerc, Carrefour, Intermarché, Super U, they also have chargers in their parking lots. And it's great if you want to combine grocery shopping with charging. How much will you pay for your charging? Now, charging apps typically tell you how much you'll pay. Sometimes the screen on the charger will tell you, not always, sadly. And on the older AC chargers that don't even have a screen, you never know how much you're going to pay unless you dig around on the app, of course. So never plug in your car all night unless you know what the overnight rate is going to be. This is really important. Underground parking garages charge an arm and a leg for power. I avoid those like the plague. If I'm stopped somewhere in a city and I'm in an underground parking garage and I'm going to be there for 3 hours, I plug in, that's fine, but never overnight. And this is also true with village chargers. Don't stay plugged in all night. Plug in for 2 or 3 hours while you have your dinner or visit the place or whatever, then move your car, okay? So final thoughts, France is becoming one of the easiest countries in Europe for EV travel. The infrastructure is here, the technology is improving fast, and you'll find chargers almost everywhere. But remember, success with EV driving comes down to preparation. So make sure you have the right cables. Get an RFID card like ChargeMap or Electroverse. Know your car's limit and charging speeds. Plan a few minutes at each stop to relax and enjoy the breaks. And whenever you stop, plug in. That's it. Do that. Your EV road trip through France will be smooth, affordable, and surprisingly enjoyable. And also ask your rental agency how much charge they require when you drop off the car. If they say more than 80%, you have a problem. So make sure that the company that rented you the EV is reasonable as well. Okay, that was a lot, wasn't it? As mentioned before, I'll share a video with patrons with all of this as well. My thanks to podcast editors Anne and Christian Codovan, who produced the transcripts and the audio. Next week on the podcast, an episode about using home exchange for your next vacation with Marie-Annette Arnstad. And great timing, I will be back from my first experience using 4 different home exchanges on my trip through France. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you join me next time so we can look around France together. Au revoir.
The Join Us in France Travel Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2025 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.